All right. We're going to start with 3.4 multi-selection else if statements. And as I mentioned before, we've talked about if, we've talked about else in the past few lessons, and now we're going to introduce an else if that tests an extra condition. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here. It says using if else statements, you can even pick between 3 or more possibilities. Just add else if for each possibility after the first if and else before the last possibility. Okay, so this is an example. So we're evaluating a condition. We have if, and then it tests this condition, a boolean value. Okay, if it's true, then do this. If it's not true, continue. And else if run this, right? If this is true, then do this. If it's not true, if everything else, anything else that you could have had, if it isn't one of these two things, if neither of these run, then else will catch at the end and it will run the else. If the first if is true, then it skips all of this. Okay. It's important to identify as we go through this. If the first condition isn't true, but this is true, right here, line 6, then 7, 8, and 9 will run. All right. And then it skips over the else. But if these two aren't true, then we run the else. It says run the code below and try changing the value of x to get each of the 3 possible lines in the condition to print. So let's just go ahead and run it as is. And let me take a look at my code. We have a class and then we have our main method. Okay, we've initialized a variable called x and assigned it the value 2. From there, we have if x is less than 0. That's not true. So this does not run, skips over that. Is else if x is equal to 0. That's not true. So it skips over this and looks at the else. So anything else, it says x is positive. And then at the very end, after the conditional has run, it says after conditional. So when we ran it, okay, it should have executed line 16, which says x is positive because we have 2. Okay. If we assigned x the value of 0 and ran it, it says x is 0 because x is not less than 0. X is equal to 0. And then if I were to give it a negative value, let's say -1, and run it, it prints out x is negative because -1 is less than 0. Once this runs, it skips over else if, it skips over else, and it prints after conditional because it doesn't just skip the rest of the program, it just continues after the conditional has been run. All right. It says here's a flow chart for conditional with 3 options like in the code above. So we have our condition. Typically when a decision is made, we have this diamond shape. Okay. So if true, then the statement or block of statements is run. Okay. Then continues and it moves on to the next statement. If it's false, then it asks another condition, the if else. If it's true, then run that statement or block of statements and then continue the next statement. If it's false, then it hits the hits the else, and that statement is executed. Okay. Another way to handle 3 or more conditional cases is to use the switch and break keywords. Okay. The switch case is something you can use in Java. It's not available in a language like Python, but it allows you to add different conditions via the switch. Sorry.
Python 3.10 technically pattern matching the push and test it.
Yeah.
I actually tested it out. It's kind of cool, but like, I don't know, I feel like the traditional switch.
Yeah. And I learned Java first and then went to Python, taught myself Python, and I was looking for a switch case. And they're like, oh, it doesn't exist in Python. I was like, all right, well, we'll have to use what we have. And I know that when we go through this, sometimes you may prefer doing something one way. If you have a preference to the way that you go through and program, entirely up to you, but if it asks for something specific, if we're asking for if and else, then do it that way. It says these will not be on the exam. And if you want to continue looking at a switch case, then you can click on this link right here. All right, 342, it says, what does the following code print when X has been set to -5? Okay, so if X is less than 0, that's true. -5 is less than 0. So it should print out X is negative. Doesn't matter what these are. That's true. All right. What does the following code print when X has been set to 2000? Okay. If X is less than 0, nope, that's not true. If X is equal to 0, nope, that's not true. So anything else, it should print out system.out.println X is positive. All right. So let me go ahead and run that. And that's true. Okay. What does the code print when X has been set to 0.8? All right, so I have 0.8. Is 0.8 less than 0.25? No. Is it less than 0.5? No. Is it less than 0.75? It's close, but it's still no, false. So it's going to run the else, and it says 4th quartile. It should be D. All right. The else if connection is necessary if you want to hook up conditionals together. In the following code, there are 4 separate if statements instead of the if else if pattern. Will this code print out the correct grade? This is the classic grade problem when you're first learning if and else ifs and else. Every single text, every single time I've seen when we introduce this, they've always used a grade book as an example. So it's just first trace through the code to figure out why it prints the incorrect grade. So I like a good problem. I like looking at things, figuring out what's wrong. And typically I can't stop looking at something until I figure out the answer to a problem. So I become obsessive about it. So, when you look at these types of problems, think of them as a puzzle. I enjoyed getting, I have my Java professional certificate, and you can go through Oracle and get certified as a Java programmer. And the entire exam is like examples of code, and you figure out what's wrong with them. And I really enjoyed that. They give you a certain amount of time and you figure out what's wrong. So with that, we have an example here, and it's saying that this code is incorrect. Why? Okay. So let's take a look at it. I guess at the very end, it wants us to fix it. So check this out. We have our class, we have a main method, and it says the score is 93. That's whatever grade you got on a test was 83, right? So we want to develop a program that runs through, just code that runs through and determines what the letter grade should be. Okay. Obviously here at our school, we have not just A, B, C, D, we have A minus, B plus, B minus, and so on. So this is just assuming that we don't have any plus or minuses, A, B, C, D. So it's saying that any grade greater than or equal to 90 is going to be an A. Any grade greater than or equal to 80 is going to be a B. Any grade greater than or equal to 70 is going to be a C. This is assuming that it's going to then skip down, like only one of these is going to execute. But the problem with this, and we'll run this and see the actual problem, right? We'll run this first if, and it says, so right now it prints it out and it says it's a D. Why did I get D? It's because if score 93 is 93 greater than or equal to 90, yes, it is. But then it just goes down to the next line. without having an else if in there, it just moves to the next statement. And this is my next statement. So then it replaces grade with B because it's going to run this. And then this line replaces grade with C. So even though you got a 93, if you are incorrectly using this, it assumes that you have gotten a C for a 93. That's not right. And then it drops your grade even more and it says you got a D. Anything else, it runs an F and then prints out the grade. So right now, your grade has been stored to a D even though you got a 93. That's not right. Okay, so it wants us to fix this. And the way we would do this, instead of writing if, right, we can write else if, so that way only one of these executes and not all of them. Right, let's run this. Now it says A, right? That's what I wanted. So it runs and it says your score is 93. Is score greater than or equal to 90? Yes, it is. So since it is greater than 90, my grade is assigned A. And then it skips all of this, right? That doesn't run. And then we print out your grade, which is an A. Okay, finish the following code so that it prints plug in your phone if the battery is below 50%. I have a really bad habit, and I was telling my wife about this weekend. I was like, I'm surprised you haven't noticed this, but I'm really bad. If I ever am charging something and I unplug it, I will never replug it, ever. Like, I'll be sitting on the couch, and I'll like check my iPad for something, and unplug it from the charger, and I'll look at it and get done. I'll turn it off, and I'll just like toss it on the couch. And my iPad will die all the time because I have a horrible habit of plugging in my iPad. Even at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I should just be in a habit of just plugging it in. I need to get in a better habit of that. Okay. It says finish the following code so it prints plug in your phone. The battery is below 50, and unplug your phone if it is above 100, and all okay otherwise. Okay. Change the battery value to test all three conditions. Okay. So it starts off, gives us the battery level. Okay. I'm going to write if battery is, it's saying below 50%. So if battery is below 50, is below 50. So 50. Yep. Okay. I'll go ahead and say system.out.println. Say plug in your phone. Okay. And then I'll say else if battery is above 100. I'm going to say, copy this line right here. Say system.out.println, and I'll say unplug your phone. And then anything else. Right, it's going to run this. Okay, so I can add a space here if I really want to. You don't have to. If battery is less than 50, then print out plug in your phone. Else if battery is greater than 100, then print out unplug your phone. Anything else, print all okay. Let's run it, see if I made any mistakes. Okay, so right now, if the battery is 60%, it's not less than 50, it's not 100, so it's all okay. Let's say the battery goes down to 44%. It runs it, and it says plug in your phone. If the battery goes to, I don't know how it would go to 101%, right? It says unplug your phone. If you leave your phone or anything plugged in for an extended period of time, it could mess with the battery. My battery for my Samsung Galaxy, it was like in 2015. It literally got bigger and so big that it couldn't fit inside the phone because I left it plugged in too much. That's a different conversation. 3.4.1 programming challenge, and it's an adventure game. And in AP Computer Science Principles, we create a game like this when we go through Python, and I call the game Dragon Adventure. And the game that we develop in that class is we go through and it's there's this guy, it's a story, and the guy ends up choosing which way to go in a cave. And in the cave, he knows one direction, there's going to be treasure. In the other direction, there's going to be a dragon that's ready to eat him. And you have to make a choice whether you go left or right. And you start taking risks throughout the game. And if you go into the dragon and you don't have enough money, you pay the dragon will ask for a random number, ask for 6 coins. If you have 7 coins left, then you pay him the 6 and you have 1 left. Then you go into another tunnel and you decide which way you go until you've accrued a massive amount of money, or you get eaten by the dragon, or you can leave at any time. So we make that game. It's just a text-based game that we make. It's one that I think is just fun to create when we start learning conditionals, if, else, if, and else. So this is not as advanced, but kind of similar. And the way, if you look down here, I'll walk through the code with you. It says, first we've imported, you know what I'm going to do? I might just, would it be easier just to open this in REPL? Let me see. Show files. Yes. No, I'll just go ahead and just do it in here. That's fine. All right, so I'll zoom out a little bit. Open it in REPL. No, it still does it. No, I'll just do it in there. Sorry, I'm confusing. It says import java.util.scanner. So we're gonna use a scanner to scan user input. Okay, we have a class, and then inside we have our main method. We have a scanner, and we've called it scan. This is gonna accept user input. And then we print out a line, and it says you are on an island surrounded by water, and then skips to the next line. There is a path to the woods to the north, the sea to the south, and a beach shack to the east. Which way do you want to go? North, east, south, or west? Okay. And then it receives your input. And if you decide to move north, so system.out.println, you enter the forest and hear some rustling. There may be tigers here, or maybe it's monkeys. And you can extend that to ask another question if you would like. And at the very end, it says end of adventure. Okay, so it says we want to add else ifs for south, east, and an else for everything else. All right. So the directions tell us to do that. South, east, and west, and an else statement saying that says you can't go in that direction for an else. Okay. How many test cases would you need? Let's do one thing at a time. So first we have, if the command equals north, do this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to say else if command equals south. Right? What do I want to say? The sea to the south. Okay, it said I can write something like you enter the sea and find a magic sea turtle. I have no idea, right? And then I'll just end it there, right? And then I'll add another else if. Else if the command instead of north, south, we'll do east, right? What was east? A beach shack. Okay. So you enter the beach shack and find a mysterious character, right? And you can add on to that if you would like to, but I'm just, it doesn't tell you what's to the west, right? So I'll just make something up. All right, so else if command equals W, then I can say you climb the mountains and find a talking snowman. I don't know. I'm making up random stuff. And then else, at the very end, we need an else. And that was supposed to say you can't go that way. System.out.println. You can't go in that direction, is what it says. You can't go in that direction. Semicolon. All right, so let me just walk through, and this is just very brief. Obviously, this only allows you to ask something once and doesn't loop through, but let's just go through and take a look at it. It's annoying. It says, you're on the island surrounded by water. There's a path to the woods to the north, the sea to the south, beach shack to the east. I'll add to it. A beach shack to the east and mountains to the west. If command equals north, you enter the forest and you hear some rustling, right? So kind of like a choose your own adventure game. There may be tigers here, maybe it's just monkeys. If I'm gonna move this over, move this over, I'll move this over. Okay, if your command was south, you enter the sea and find a magic sea turtle. If your command was E for east, you enter the beach shack and find a mysterious character. And then if it was west, you climb the mountains and find a talking snowman. Anything else, you can't go in that direction. And then you print out end of adventure and the scanner closes. Okay, let's run this and see what happens. Oh, I see. Yeah. So I would have to use escape character. Can I just put / or backslash there? We'll try that. I'm just gonna use improper English because I'm not gonna mess with that right now. Yeah. Yeah. All right. You're on an island surrounded by water. There's a path to the woods in the north, the sea to the south, a beach shack to the east, and the mountains to the west. Which would you like to go? Let's try north. Let's test it. You enter the forest and hear some rustling. All right. If I were to go through and test each one, right? I want to go through and test for the north, and I also want to test for the east. Okay, that worked. Let's also test for the south, S. You find a magic sea turtle, cool. And then to the west, try W. That works. Now, let's try a different character. I don't know. Let me just try X. It just says you can't go in that direction. Now, notice it is case sensitive as well. If I run this and I use a capital, I don't know, capital N, it says you can't go in that direction. So, you know, assuming that we're using the scanner, you know, unless you're automatically converting it using to lowercase, right? You could go through and whatever they end up entering, you could say dot to lowercase and just convert everything to lowercase. But you know, you have to enter what it is they're looking for. If you accidentally type the wrong letter, you could create a condition that then sends it to the beginning of a loop, right? If you're using a loop and you use continue will send it back to the top again and rerun it. But we haven't gotten that far or talked about loops. So I think this is as far as it wants us to go. I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to paste it. Copy. And I'm going to paste it right here and save and run it. Let's see if I did what it wanted me to do. And I passed everything. All right, so it went through and it tried it and it worked. All right. Like I said, definitely didn't take 90 minutes. It says a multi-way selection is written when there are a series of conditions with different statements for each condition. Multi-way selection is performed using if, else, and then if, else, if. And there's an example. And it says you've completed 8 out of 8 activities on this page, completed, well done. And if you want to extend this game, like obviously this is just a very, like, I don't know why you want to play this game, pretty boring, worse than Chris's game, right? So not a very good game here. The game you were playing.
What game am I playing?
You're saying you're playing on your phone that like you're like it's not even fun anymore.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's what I was saying. This isn't a fun game. It's worse than your game, right? So I'm not saying you created a game and your game was bad. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm sure if you made a game, it'd be very good. So when you go through this, you know, it's not that fun. So you can add different things, add things to the story. I can show you guys the Dragon Adventure game in Python too. But you know, being able to accept user input is cool because you can start to create different text-based games like this. And then eventually, once you learn how to use GUI, different GUIs to make characters and things operate with one another and detect collision and all that fun stuff, you can move forward. But that's 3.4 multi-selection else if statements.